Warning, this video will contain spoilers for Season 6, the finale, Last Day on Earth, so do be cautious as you go ahead and watch this video. What is going on, everyone? This is Ninja Geek here, and we are here, obviously, to talk about The Walking Dead, Season 6, the finale episode. Leaving off at a huge cliffhanger, but we will discuss that at the end. Since this episode has a bunch of things to talk about, meaning within two major topics, I wanted to kind of split them off. So I know that the story kind of jump cuts between Morgan Carroll and then the whole Negan story, but I wanted to talk about each one individually instead of jump cutting between the story to make it kind of confusing. So at first I wanted to talk about the whole Morgan and Carroll story from what we left off with last week's episode and what we have with this week's episode. So I honestly predicted that we would never see Morgan in the finale, we would never see Carroll in the finale, and we would honestly never see that other savior who ended up finding Carol's rosary beads on the ground. I didn't think that this was going to be part of the finale at all, but of course they had to add in some extra stuff to make it a 90-minute episode. And speaking of making it a 90-minute episode, I honestly think, as coming from an editing standpoint, that I think the episode was 90 minutes because it was a season finale, so they could say, oh, the season finale is going to be 90 minutes, a 90-minute episode. And it's not actually a 90-minute episode because, you have commercials, so it's really about an hour-ish, maybe a little bit over that. But I think that the episode could have honestly been the same length as the other episodes, and it would have done perfectly fine, depending on what it was. Maybe they could have, I don't know, maybe they didn't need the Morgan Carroll thing in there. I don't know if they absolutely needed it in there, but all I know is that the episode, I don't think, needed to be 90 minutes. I think they kind of dragged it on until, obviously, the very end, which is like the last 15 minutes of the show, which is the majority part. But anyways, getting into it, we see Morgan find a horse right at the beginning of the episode, and this is kind of reminiscent. I was like, oh, that's actually pretty weird, because in, obviously, Season 1, Rick finds that horse, and the horse ends up dying in the streets of Atlanta, and we see Morgan here, who was also in Season 1, Episode 1, and we see him here, and he finds a random horse somewhere, and he actually takes it and goes along with that, so it's very reminiscent of the first episode of The Walking Dead, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And plus, on top of that, as he's walking the streets trying to find Carol with this horse, he sees a bunch of dead bodies on the ground, or dead walkers, I should say. And it just kind of brings back those Season 1 memories. Eventually, he encounters Carol, and the whole synopsis between the two is that Carol obviously just doesn't want to go back to Alexandria. She doesn't want to fight for anyone there because she loves them too much, and she's just afraid that because she's doing that, her kill counter, if you will, is going to go up, and she just hates doing that. So she basically forces Morgan out and just to go back to Alexandria without her, and Morgan will not do that. Now, the way that we leave off with Morgan and Carol is that we don't know what's going to happen with them, like if they're going to go back to Alexandria, what the case is with that. We honestly have no clue because it leaves off with no explanation on that front. However, that's not the biggest thing that we're worried about here in terms of the other side of the storyline, but it's just the fact that Morgan tried to save Carol and bring her back, and Carol just wants nothing to do with her. I honestly, if Carol dies, I really don't care at this point because she's just forcing the other characters to go out and look for her, and I just think that she's just a giant waste of time. Now, she pulled a gun on Morgan for no reason at all. It's just, I don't see where she's coming from now. She's definitely picked the side that she wants, but it's just a side that I don't think anyone else should interfere with. So that's just my personal opinion, but you could let me know what you think about the whole Morgan Carroll thing and what Carol's opinions are on life now down in the comments below. And one last thing I would like to add about Morgan is the fact that we know that his whole philosophy in life is moving forward to save everyone else's life without killing anyone, and that's been his philosophy ever since more recently. And that's his way of life going forward. That's just what he chooses. But in this episode, he kind of changes that philosophy because the Savior's trying to kill Carol, and he just, without hesitation, puts 6 rounds in the guy, and then he's dead. He asked him calmly before, he said, "You want to leave?" And he didn't leave, and he just wanted to finish Carol off, so Morgan ended his life. Now, why would he do this all of a sudden? He just suddenly pulls the gun on him and kills him without hesitation. No, all life is precious anymore. It's just to say, is it just because he has some comfort for Carol. Like, maybe he feels sorry for what he's done in the past to her, like keeping the wolf there, something that he wants to make it up to her. Who knows, but that part of the show is still left off as what happens between Morgan and Carol and who ends up going back to Alexandria. And now getting on to the more interesting side of the story, the huge chunk of storyline that happens within the season finale. Here we go. So it starts off with the whole idea about what happened last week, which I didn't really cover that much because I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal, but it turns out that it is. The whole idea that Maggie and her pregnancy and she's becoming more ill because she doesn't have the medicine to be treated like that. So Rick and some other group members go out there to try and get to the Hilltop's doctor so that they can help. Because obviously Denise is no longer around, which is unfortunate because she would have become somewhat of a big help here, but they still need medical supplies, and so they wanted to get to the Hilltop. And the major problem here is that they end up running into the Saviors on so many multiple accounts, and the fact of the matter that they were trying to trap them, they knew that they were coming after the fact that they ran into them the first time, and that Negan was going to trap them, end up trapping them by the end of the day. So the fact that I thought was pretty cool was the fact that the Saviors actually obviously asked for Rick's weapons and for one of them to die, and they were like, yeah, we're gonna make a deal, and they were like, yeah, let's make the deal, you're gonna give us all your weapons, and one of you's gonna have to die, that's how it's gonna have to be, but after that we can start moving on with business. And Rick was like, well, I don't really think that deal is gonna work out. I was thinking that I was going to take all of your weapons and not have to kill any of you. Any more of you, that is. Of course, because obviously we know now that he made a big mistake in killing all those Saviors back there. Things could have turned out completely different for Rick and the whole group in this scenario, but the way that it is right now, it just happens to be that Rick obviously assassinated a bunch of the Saviors, and Negan is just not going to be happy about this. So that's how they end up getting trapped in this way, but they obviously try and find more routes, and the more routes that Eugene finds on the map to take the RV to, they are trapped by so many Saviors, and it's just an ongoing battle between the Saviors and Rick's group that they keep trying different ways, and Rick just doesn't believe how many Saviors there are at this point. Like, how many do they have? They have them blocking off all the roads, they have them setting up all these traps, and then they end up in this one area where it's just a chain of lined up walkers. So you have, I think there was about a couple dozen, or no, not a couple, like 1 dozen walkers chained up there, and the thing that made it weird was the fact that Michonne's hair and Daryl's arrows were in 2 of the walkers, and then they just got shot at, obviously on purpose. The Saviors tried not to kill them because they were being led further into a trap. Once they cut the walkers loose out of the chain, the RV was able to get through and end up in a dead-end area of another area where it was just a bunch of logs that lit on fire after a guy was hung from like this bridge. And it's just I don't understand how Rick just is not trying to go back to Alexandria at this point in the show, or in life, I guess you can say. I would think, if I was the leader of that group, I would say, yeah, Maggie could die, but I think it's, I don't know if it's worth trying to get to Hilltop versus all of these Saviors that are just trying to put us into a trap. I mean, obviously, they know that. But then at this point, their options are out. There's no way that they're going to get through these Saviors at all unless they kill them, which is probably not going to work out well, since Rick already killed a lot more of them in the past episodes. And it's just not going to work out for their group. So with Eugene's brilliant plan, they continue on forward on foot while Eugene guards the RV. Now, I don't know if Eugene was going to plan on distracting the Saviors while the others go on foot to the Hilltop and try and get through the Saviors as a distraction, or if he was just going to sit there and guard the RV. I don't know where he was going. I mean, I think that I honestly don't know where he was planning to go by himself, but obviously they had a specific plan there, and the plan ends up failing because as they're going through the woods, they are entrapped by hundreds of Saviors. Not just a couple of Saviors anymore that are on the side of the road, hundreds. All of the Saviors probably come together at this point and trap Rick and everyone there. And Rick at this point is just, like, he can't even believe it. This is probably one of those moments in the show that he just knows that he is just undoubtedly going to lose any type of battle that he tries to get away from this area. Eugene is seen captured, and the Savior, who was actually on the road earlier in that day, who told Rick, and they had the back and forth speech together, that it might be the last day on Earth for one of them or someone that they loved, is actually going to come true now in Rick's eyes, because it was a bit of a foreshadowing event, and I don't know if Rick believed in it or not, but now he definitely believes in it because he sees what is going on around him, or maybe he doesn't see what's going on around him. He really probably honestly can't see it all. He can't talk at all. He doesn't talk to anyone at all throughout this entire sequence. He's probably just blown away by what is going on around them. And another thing that I would like to mention is the fact that whenever we would cut back from a commercial break, it would always show, no matter where they were in the story, it would always show this board with like a bunch of holes in it in the lights. So it was like a foreshadowing event to what was going to happen later on in the episode for just a split couple of seconds every time the show would return. So as we all probably figured, Glenn, Daryl, Michonne, and Rosita hop out of that trailer wherever they're being kept in that little box thingy, and they come out and get all on their knees, and they're all sitting around in a circle, and the man himself, the actual Negan, comes out. Not the fake one that they had before that the Savior was pretending to be Negan, or whatever he was trying to doing. This is actually the real Negan, the real deal here within the season finale. And it's just, first of all, I would like to say a couple of words on him, because obviously this moment in the show is probably one of the greatest moments within the entire show, and it's one of the moments that will keep the show growing on, because obviously we had the governor before and he was killed off, and then after that the show kind of dipped to a low. There wasn't really much action going on. Yeah, we had Terminus, but it wasn't really a lot to go by. You know, Gareth and his crew weren't all that bad that they were hyped up to be. But now within the show we have the Saviors and Negan, who is just this almighty power like we haven't seen before within the show. And Negan, who obviously the character who plays him, the actor who plays him, is one of the greatest things I've ever seen. I mean, he plays the character so well and portrays him so well that I think that it fits in great for an enemy within the show, and I don't mind him being in here, honestly. I mean, he's kind of a person that you obviously hate, but at the same time, it's like, you know, this is amazing in how the show is performing. So honestly, Negan has a really good reason for talking to Rick about killing all those Saviors and saying that it wasn't the right thing to do, because in all honesty, Rick kind of just went along with his own plan and decided that he was just going to kill these Saviors. Nothing bad was going to happen, that they are going to take over the world, and obviously that didn't happen. There's way more Saviors than Rick thought, and that's why he's going through all these emotions now as Negan himself is talking to him, and he is going to choose one person to kill because he needs the rest to work for him. And that is the plan going forward. So who is it that Negan decides to kill? Hashtag who is it? Well, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, we don't fucking know. We really don't know. The show ends on a cliffhanger with Negan killing someone from a POV shot. We have no idea who it is. The cast members themselves don't know who it is. The only people that know or have a general idea of who they want it to be are the show producers, the show writers right now. And that's it. The cast doesn't know, unless some of the cast knows, but they're not telling anyone. Carl on Twitter, Chandler Riggs, I should say, he said that he doesn't even know who it is, and it's been like 6 months since he last read the last script for it. It's just insane how nobody knows, not even the cast members of the show. They don't know who it is. But many people at the end of this episode say that it was Carl who Negan kills, because he basically says anybody moves, anybody says anything, cut the other boy's eye out and feed it to his father. And they were saying, oh, that must mean that he's going to kill Carl, which I completely disagree on. I think they did that to kind of throw the viewer off and say that, oh, it's going to be Carl now. He's going to lose his other eye, or he's going to die by Negan. We don't know who obviously it is, but I can definitely tell you that it most likely is not Carl. I think they did it to throw a lot of people off into thinking that it was. In my honest opinion, it is Daryl or Glenn. Glenn was obviously killed by Negan in the comics, but I do feel like it is more Daryl, than Glenn, because I feel like they're going to throw it off from the comics. If they come back and kill Glenn, it's just going to be like, oh, well, we waited 7 months just to see this when we could have guessed it. I mean, I honestly don't think Glenn is going to be it. I don't think Carl is going to be it. Rick is obviously not going to die so far yet. He probably will later on in the future, but right now, He's not going to die by Negan. And so I think that's basically the end. I mean, there's nothing more to talk about. We're going to have to wait 7 months to see who actually it is that died. And the way that they filmed the end was a little bit weird. I don't know if a POV shot of the ending would have sufficed for that, like actually seeing the blood on the screen and getting hit by the bat, because it kind of looked a little bit cheesy. I'm not gonna lie. It maybe seeing a close-up of one of the other characters' faces would have sufficed for that scene, but I'm not gonna judge that anymore. I think it was a great overall episode. It just left off on a really, like, the best cliffhanger, I guess, since the show started. The best cliffhanger in The Walking Dead. So leave your comments down below on what you think. Who is it? Hashtag who is it that you think that Negan killed? And I will see you back on this series. The series has finally come to a close for Season 6, but we will be back with Season 7, doing the same exact thing right back in October. So hope you all enjoyed these videos as I do my best to produce them. I'll see you then. I'm Ninja Geek. I'm out. And peace.